Hey everybody, welcome back to SmartCon. I'm here with Stani Kulachov from Aave. Congratulations, Stani, for your growth, the #1 TVL locked on DeFi Pulse and other metrics. And also you guys launched this morning the Wi-Fi pool we were just talking about today with almost 21 million locked in USD value locked in right now. So congratulations on all that.
Thanks, Andy. I mean, it was an actually asset that we've been tracking quite long. I mean, they have a good community, and the growth has been pretty much based on the developers that are building on top of Aave. So a lot of credit goes to them as well. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, we're super excited to have you here, so I'll let you take it away. Thanks.
Yep, definitely. So you guys see my screen, right, on the presentation? I guess so. So. Today we're going to basically talk about unlocking value and what it basically means in DeFi, and also what has been the narrative in DeFi since now the short history. And like I will kind of like give some insights like how we think about value at Aave and what we are trying to achieve and like what makes us a bit different in terms of like how we try to reach innovation, and I think this will be very helpful, and also we show a bit of like how the composability works and how we're utilizing Chainlink, for example, in our price feeds, and how beneficial the whole ecosystem is in the Aave. So as kind of like those who do not know, or those who even know, this is very interesting information in terms of like what Aave is. So, I mean the Aave protocol. So in essence, it's basically a money market protocol, which means that anyone can come with stable coins or cryptographic assets and deposit them into the Aave protocol to earn yield. And once you deposit to the Aave protocol, you will get in return interest-bearing tokens, A tokens. So basically, if you deposit DAI, you get A DAI. If you deposit USDC, you get A USDC. And what's cool about the A tokens is that they're actually algorithmically will increase in your balance, just as your for example, if you're an interest in your bank or payments accounts or whatnot, you will see basically credits there, so your balance increases. So, but I will go more deeply in the A tokens quite soonish. But in essence, so you can deposit and earn interest, and at the same time you can basically draw credit line against your deposits. So that's pretty cool. And when people are drawing those credit lines, it basically generates interest to the rest of the depositors. And because these are like the money markets are based on reserve, so each money market has asset-based reserve. Let's say there's Link reserve, Lend reserve, Wi-Fi reserve, USDC reserve, and so forth. And basically, since there's more deposits than borrows, it basically means that anyone can then withdraw at any time unless there's completely scenario where there's full utilization, which is quite rare situation. And of course, that liquidity that is in these money markets can be flash borrowed, and I will go a bit more further on that. But what's interesting about our protocol is that our expansion is pretty much horizontal when it comes to new money markets. So we basically want to open new kinds of opportunities for depositors and also borrowers that want to use their cryptographic assets as a collateral. And one of the money markets that we opened during this year previously was a Uniswap liquidity provider shares as a collateral. And what's cool about that is that actually those who are providing liquidity into Uniswap, they get basically this called liquidity provider shares that represents their position there, and they can use it as a collateral and borrow against. So it's kind of like a derivative on top of the Uniswap. And it's really interesting because we'll see a lot of DeFi composability happen in the future, where we see kind of like based on the tokenization, that liquidity is utilized this way with the tokens. And our goal at Aave is supply the users with money markets where they can access liquidity based on those tokenized shares. And in the future, we'll open a bit more in terms of money markets. So interesting about Aave is that we started in the protocol in January this year, and it has grown quite substantially. So typically in DeFi, we have this kind of like a metric or yardstick to measure things. It's called TVL, total locked value, total value locked, and it's based on the DeFi Pulse kind of a way of looking how much users are trusting your smart contracts, how much they're putting value into them. It's not the best metric in sense of measuring success, growth, or adoption, not at all. I think it's just a metric in the beginning and was a kind of like a meme metric as well to measure how much funds are in balances in this smart contract, so how much people are actually trusting them. But what's cool about this metric is that it gives some compassing in terms of like how the growth has been. And in terms of Aave, so we started in January completely from ground zero, and we reached now basically 1.5 billion worth of value locked in the smart contracts, which is pretty cool. And we're the biggest now and most trusted DeFi protocol to this date. And it feels very good in the sense that kind of that the developers are trusting us, the community is trusting us, and also the price fees that we are getting. Basically, we are one of the unicorns that Chainlink kind of like in terms of value added, their price fees are securing, and that is very interesting, kind of like a observation. And yeah, besides the value locked, I think like what's important in this kind of metric is to see that like most of the value comes from developers. People are building a lot of things on top of Aave. Our goal is to be the most developer-friendliest protocol that you can actually build new functionality, financial primitives, and we give all the help that we can and make sure that our documentation is clear as it can be. And this is how we create opportunities in DeFi, because DeFi is not just basically permissionless access, but it's also permissionless building. And this is how we create new kind of like products, remove inefficiencies by creating new products for the end users. And of course, we do have a user interface. And basically what's interesting about our user interface is that we kind of understand that as a decentralized protocol, we want the Aave protocol to be accessible as widely as possible. And what's interesting in that is that we do have our own user interface, and we started with that because we want to show the community how easy it's actually to use our protocol and show an example to others. But anyone can actually tailor their user experience for their users, and or based on localizations or whatnot. So there's no limitations in what you could actually build in that sense. And our main money market has roughly 1.7 billion market size. It basically means that that's the deposit amounts and the borrowings in total. So the deposit markets and borrow markets. And you see in this image, for example, how this slide and how different kinds of asset markets, different kind of assets we have there, and what are the deposit rates you will get when you're depositing into Aave, and the borrow rates. What's cool about Aave is the stable rate. This is something that people absolutely love, because the problem with DeFi interest rates is that they fluctuate quite a lot because they're based on mathematics of supply and demand and the utilization. And when you're able to basically take a stable rate, you are getting a rate that is predictable for you compared to a fluctuating rate. And that is very important, especially when we are in the era where there's different kinds of yield farming opportunities and people come to Aave to basically utilize credit as much as they can, and the rates are going up. But those who are actually on stable rate they don't feel the difference in that sense. So that's one of the coolest features that we have, and there's plenty of other cool features coming in our version 2, which is coming pretty soon. And it allows you to, for example, swap your collateral position. So if you deposit, for example, Ethereum, and you want to convert that to and you borrowed, let's say, DAI, and you spent that DAI already, but you want to change your collateral to, for example, from ETH to Land or to Link, that is totally possible. And we are adding this kind of like a features where you can do more swaps between your positions and are more user-friendly in that sense. And of course, we have the smaller markets. The Uniswap market is a bit more smaller because it's based on version 1 Uniswap, and we're rolling up new versions of Uniswap markets with the support of version 2. So this is something is quite cool that is going to happen. Yeah, and of course, one of the markets we're working now is the SET token markets. We wanted to basically get it out a bit quicker, but SET protocol is coming with version 2, so we want to add them both at the same time and rely more on the version 2. But I think it's just an example of like innovation, like what you could actually build and unlock in terms of like liquidity. So the very first idea the main point of Aave is that the users can come, deposit, and borrow and unlock that liquidity that they have. So that is like the main thesis of Aave. And this is just a small example of the composability that we have, all the different kinds of DeFi primitives, integrations that are actually using Aave and are somehow connected together. And I think the slide is a bit outdated, so I could double the amount of stuff is being built, but it just shows how diverse the space is. Aave, as a project, we started actually in 2017. Well, 2016, we started to build. We started the first project called ETHLend, which is short for Ethereum lending. And that was the first actually on-chain lending protocol and first protocol where you actually are collateralizing positions. And that is what the whole DeFi is kind of based now in terms of lending and stable coins. And during that time, there wasn't that much ecosystem. So there was basically one decentralized exchange called EtherDelta. There was ETHLend. So it was very difficult to build different kinds of things. And now we have just so many interesting things on different layers, and people are building constantly every day new products and launching. And this is like very fascinating. This is why we love the space at the moment, because we see so much innovation. And Aave as a base layer opens like very good opportunities. I mean, you can build different kinds of derivatives, and you can store the derivative, for example, in the Aave protocol that earns at the same time interest, and that could be used to reduce the cost of the writing a derivative and also of buying that derivative. So there's so many things you could actually use Aave for your project. So yeah, I think things are only getting better. And yeah, so we have this concept called A tokens, and what is actually we're trying to achieve is a permissionless savings account. So if you open a savings account today in banks, you basically have to go a lot of paperwork, and after all the stuff that you do, you might get basically close to zero interest, or actually zero. And we're actually going towards more negative rates in some part of the world, and that is very interesting in the sense that might drive more interest into the DeFi. And A tokens are, in essence, interest-bearing tokens. So let's say when you deposit you deposit USDC into Aave, you get in return AUSDC, and that AUSDC will algorithmically grow in your wallet balance. And this is like how you kind of like create innovation. When we first had the idea, many in the ETH community were a bit of skeptical, because this is a kind of like an unorthodox way of creating tokens. But what's cool about this is that we got so much support from our community and also our users that this is actually a pretty cool way, because everyone sees how much they deposited and how much they're earning in the protocol directly in their wallet balance, and they can use those tokens right away. And that's like very cool thing in our opinion. And it's basically US dollar nominated because of the stable coins. And yeah, if you send the tokens to someone else, for example, the balance still continues to grow. I could see in the future this could be a very efficient payment solution in the sense that actually have a payment currency that is increasing value all the time. And I think that's way better than a USD currency that actually decreases in value in terms of inflation. And this Aave tokens as a permissionless savings account is very beneficial if you live in a country, for example, where local currency is suffering quite a lot from the inflation, or you don't have access to US dollar nominated savings account, or the yields are basically suck. In that sense, like I see a lot of potential in the adoption, and the user experience is quite seamless because you don't need to deposit to Aave to actually get those Aave tokens. You can just buy them from the market, and they will increase in interest. Yeah, and you can also natively redirect that interest, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, and seeing your balance increase in your wallet, that is fun. Like that is really cool, at least for me. And yeah, the Aave token deposits has grown even like in terms of institutionals and people who are holding substantial value. So this chart shows the Gnosis safe and the increase of the different kinds of Aave tokens that has been utilized. So the interesting point is that holding Aave tokens is better than holding the underlying because you get the interest. And for example, you could be holding instead of holding Link, you could hold a Link, and at the same time you will be holding the underlying deposit and also the interest that you're earning. So that's pretty interesting stuff. And then another way we are actually unlocking value from the protocol. So we have these are the different examples how Aave, in terms of like, ironically, we have most locked value now, but ironically, we are like trying to always think of ways to unlock that value. And this is our way of kind of like trying to figure out new features all the time. And Flash Loan allows users to borrow 100% under collateralized. And now what's interesting about Flash Loans is that you don't need any collateral and you can borrow as much as there's actually reserves available. And in current market value, there is 1.5 billion USD worth of assets in Aave. So technically, you could borrow all of those in one Ethereum transaction. And the catch is here that you actually need to return the loan as well in one Ethereum transaction. And basically, there's plenty of interesting use cases. But technically, how it works, for example, a developer might create a tool where he has some sort of like a searches for arbitrage opportunities. So you flash borrow from Aave, and then you buy a currency in one exchange, and then you sell the currency in another exchange. For example, you buy in Uniswap, sell in let's say Balancer, and then you basically keep the profit, return the loan back to Aave. So you basically made an arbitrage opportunity without using your own capital. Or you could do refinancing, for example. You basically took a loan with ETH collateral. You borrowed, let's say, USDC. You spend that USDC. So basically, what you could do a flash loan from Aave of basically USDC. Return that loan, take that Ether, sell it for, let's say, Link, and take that Link, put it back into the Aave, and draw that USDC credit back and return that into the flash borrow facility. And this all happens in one transaction, and it works because Ethereum settles per block. So each block has a certain amount of gas that you can utilize that determines how much transaction could be fitted into this block. And then each transaction can have nested transactions. So one transaction and multiple nested transactions. And then you have just in one transaction the borrow, the buy, the sell, the take profit and return the loan and so forth.
Hey, everybody, you can see we lost Stani there briefly, so we're going to try and get him back. All right. Yeah, we were in flash loans, and you were talking about nested transactions and such there. So if you want to pick up there, I'm sure we'll get it back.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, hey guys, yeah, all good. Some minor technicalities. Yeah, so many people here, so many people. It's just amazing. It's just it's crazy to follow all of the stuff. But yeah, glad that you guys are here. So so the flash loans are getting insane. Like I've seen like 130 million per day. Like this is something like quite insane. I think at some point we'll move even higher amounts. So it's interesting to see like how things are going in the future. And they like the cool thing about flash loans is that every flash loan gives a interest rate spike on that particular block for all of the depositors. So that's like interesting feature in that sense that it's kind of like an arbitrary interest rate. And third way or fourth way actually, if we calculate correctly. So how we actually unlock more value from the protocol is basically credit delegation. And the idea of credit delegation is that all the Aave depositors, so if you deposited Link and you get a Link, you can delegate your credit line to someone else. So if you basically are there to only earn interest on your Link, Land, Wi-Fi, stable coins, and you're not interested into dropping credit lines, you can delegate it to someone you trust, or basically to a smart contract. So the idea here is that 75% of the protocol value is not utilized, so it's there used as a collateral. So what's interesting here is that when you delegate your credit, you can actually earn more. And the base rule is that you can delegate it to anyone. You can delegate basically who you trust. So if you're a friend to another Link Marine or there's options. But what's cooler, like what I'm very, very bullish and working quite intensively now is that you can delegate your credit into a smart contract that has predefined functions to do things, and that smart contract can't do anything else besides that. And for example, if you look at the Wiren A-Link wall, it has credit delegation with 50% loan to value ratio, and basically that uses strategy to borrow stable coins from Aave protocol and to farm all kinds of crap. So that's the kind of like idea here in with credit delegation, and I'm very bullish on this stuff. And you guys are going to see very interesting things coming up in terms of credit delegation version 2. And I'm personally like very fanatic about this feature, and I think it's a nice way to get utilization rate up and more interest for the depositors. Then we have basically one of the key points about DeFi is safety. So one of the things we have in our kind of like Aavenomics, which is like the token economics, which determines like what our token holders are actually doing. So what they're doing is they're basically governing risk parameters on the Aave protocol, and that basically means that they're voting on different kinds of parameters. What basically is their loan to value ratio and so forth, or for example, what is the what kind of assets should be added into the protocol. And in return, they're basically doing risk transfer. So basically, the lend, or in the future after migration Aave token holders, they can stake into the safety module and earn more Aave. And the idea is that if there's some kind of like a shortfall event in our money markets, for example, failed liquidation, smart contract hack, or some sort of exploit, what's basically happening is that this stake will cover basically what will be the deficit. And if it doesn't cover, there is protocol recovery functionality, which allows basically this kind of like a minting for recovery. And we have a built-in backstop module for stablecoins to actually bid on those auction nets So the idea here is like not focus too much on the, well, we have liquidity providing incentives, but also like we are focusing more on the protocol safetiness. And I think that's the key for the adoption, because DeFi to succeed, this boils down to Aave, this boils down to Chainlink, this boils down to all the protocols. We can't basically mess up. We need to be very, very secure on how we basically build things. So that's kind of like the thing. So this is the idea of like providing security is important. Safety for getting more mainstream adoption and to avoid DeFi from failing. And that is basically what our Aavenomics is all about, to providing safety for the markets. And also liquidity providers who are earning Aave, they're incentivized to bridge into the safety module and earn more and align in governance with the stakers. Yeah, so next step for Aave. So we're moving towards decentralized governance. The stakes are very high at the moment. We are doing it basically, that's our next step in our kind of agenda. And you can join the discussion governance at aave.com, and we're currently discussing about the balance of incentives and basically different kinds of discussions related to governance. And moving toward decentralized governance doesn't mean that the Aave team is leaving, or we will always be a stakeholder in the protocol. We always want to build things, but it just means that others can build, others can decide what we will build, and also it just widens the governance of the protocol. Yeah, and we have token migration coming, which we are focused upon, and new money markets. This is something, but also what's not in the slide, kind of like leaking a bit the alpha, is that it's already has been leaked, but we are working on V2, which provides very extensive amounts of interesting features that will help the end users to swap positions and do all kinds of interesting stuff. So yeah, that was it. If you want to build Aave, docs@aave.com or Discord. But essentially, you can join our Telegram from this link. And that was all. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Stani. A great talk. It's been awesome to see just the evolution from ETHLN to now. So congrats, for the rapid rise over the last 6 months, 8 months.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
All right, thank you all. Cheers.